Have you experienced the awesome power of the Panasonic Real 3DO system? Obviously.
Presenting 3DO, the most advanced home gaming system in the universe. It's time to put away your toys.
3DO from Panasonic, Gold Star, and Creative Labs. A new low price and free games.
Mind-blowing graphics of Panasonic Real 3DO.
3DO.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 3DO Experience, the 3DO retrospective podcast where we talk about the 3DO company, the console, and everything in between. I am Bill, and this is my co-host, Thread. God. Okay, I fucked that one.
Keep it, just keep it. I'm Thread today.
It's all right.
That would be if I transitioned, and my feminine name is now Thread.
Well, it's actually kind of funny. Like my mother, when she listens to the episodes, she is like terrible with remembering names. So she's always like, "Oh, are you are you recording 3DO with Spank today?" And I'm like, "That's not his name, Mom."
I mean,
Like, not even close.
I mean, I can be if you want.
Yeah. So
I am doing just fine. How are you doing?
I'm tired. If you couldn't tell.
Yeah, I have the week off from work, so it's been pretty
Nice.
relaxing. The Vikings finally won a game, thank God.
I saw that.
Yeah, so that made me feel good because the first half was, like, oh shit, here we go again. And then in the second half, Harrison Smith strip fumbled Bryce Young, which DJ Wanham grabbed it and ran into the end zone for a defensive TD, and that kind of changed the whole momentum of the game. So they won it. So I can rest easy this week because I know next week they're playing the Chiefs, and I'm like, look, they don't have to beat the Chiefs. They probably won't, but if they can hang with the Chiefs, I'll be fine. Like if they don't lose by like 20 points, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, it's been pretty relaxing. I played through all of Cocoon, which is a new game that came out on recommendation of friend of the show, Burger Champ, and it was
Nice.
pretty good. It was a really good game. I quite enjoyed it. I wouldn't say like I had like an emotional reaction to it, if that makes any sense, but at the end of it, I was like, that was really good. Like just kind of almost like an objective kind of viewpoint of it. Played a bit of Control because I really want to sit down and play that before Alan Wake 2. And also, if Rick is listening, I have now put more time into Lost Odyssey, so hopefully this week I can get really, really far in it because me and him are going to record that soon so I can finally get Lost Odyssey off my plate so I can move on.
Nice.
But that's in the podcast gaming sphere. Outside of that, I'm in my new temp job. That's been going really well. Everybody's really cool, and it's pretty relaxed over there. So overall, right now, I would say life for Thrak is pretty solid. So is Bill's life pretty solid too?
It's going all right, Got work stuff. Just got the end of the month, so I went through all the bills, like paying all that fun stuff. So I'm good for another month. I started playing Tokyo Xanadu recently out of curiosity.
Is that some weeb shit?
So it's a Falcom game. They're like the Ys Legend of Heroes studio.
So it is some weeb shit.
Yeah, it's the most blatant Persona clone I've ever seen, but it's pretty good. So I'll let it slide.
Is it close to Tokyo Mirage Sessions at all?
Kind of.
Because I can't really call that a Persona clone because Atlas worked on it.
Yeah, it's not so much Persona in like the sense that you have like personas that you like summon. It's more of it's kind of like high school setting. Like you go into this like demon world occasionally. It's actually an action RPG, so it's not 100% a Persona clone, but you play like 5 minutes of it and you're like, this is very much them trying to do Persona. It's not bad though. I like it for what it's so far.
Is it we have Persona at home kind of energy?
Yeah, that's what Rick referred to it as. It's very much it's very clearly like if you were during that lull between Persona 4 and Persona 5, it probably would have held you over.
Yeah.
But it's a Falcom game. I like it. I'll
Yeah.
probably finish it. I'll probably finish it.
Yeah, now that's got me thinking about Tokyo Mirage Sessions because I have it for Switch, and I started playing it. I don't know why I put it down. I just have a habit of putting games down, but that game's really good.
Tokyo Mirage Sessions was a really good game. I think the reason why it kind of flopped at first was because everyone was just so butthurt that it wasn't Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei like they wanted.
Well, and also it was on the Wii U,
That too.
so it wasn't going to sell well there. I don't know what it sold on Switch, but I imagine it probably did better there.
It probably did all right, especially because that was after Persona 5 like blew up and like a lot of people were just looking for something similar.
Yeah. Though I think a funny story about the development of that game, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, is apparently during it, Atlas was trying to make like a Fire Emblem style like tactical game. And,
Yeah.
And then they showed it to Intelligent Systems, and Intelligent Systems just said, "No, honey, no, don't do that." So they made something that resembles more like Persona, but like I call it like Diet Persona, or it's like the Coke Zero of Persona, where it's like
It's
kind of the same thing, but it has enough of its own distinction to separate it,
It's like a Persona game if it was like entirely idle focused, and instead of
Yeah.
summoning personas, you summon Fire Emblem characters.
And it's not as, for lack of a better term, it's not as engaging as a Persona game in that you don't have to like give up your life to play it. You can just sort of put, I think, like 40 hours into it, and that's your experience, kind of a thing. But I don't think we'll ever get a sequel, unfortunately. I mean, who
No.
knows?
Maybe.
Who knows? I mean, Atlas is doing really well, and I'm sure this game will get a cult following if it hasn't already. So you never know with the Switch 2. Maybe, Atlas and Nintendo try something a little different, or with the Switch 2 coming out being more powerful, that could just be Atlas puts, like, say, the Persona 3 remake on there. And I mean, we got all the Persona games on Switch now, so
I still call BS that they can't get that running on the Switch. I just think they're lazy.
yeah. Or they could be holding it off for the next Switch.
That's honestly that's probably more likely.
Yeah, because imagine like the next Switch launches and like the first and the only RPG it has is the Persona 3 remake. Like that sitting right next to the new Switch on the shelf, that would be a good look. So
Yeah.
Though I think there's a lot of potentials for Switch 2 launch titles from the third party perspective. Because there's a rumor I heard is because Jedi Survivor is getting that PS4, Xbox One like downgrade, demake essentially. Some people are thinking, oh, are they doing that for a Switch 2 port as well? Which they could be doing, but Jedi Fallen Order isn't there yet. So maybe they launch, maybe like EA is at the Switch 2 launch with Jedi Fallen Order, and if that does really well, they'll put Survivor on there as well. Like we could get maybe not Assassin's Creed Mirage, but maybe like an Assassin's Creed Origins thing, because Ubisoft is always there for a console's launch. But again, that's just pure speculation. But we're not here to speculate about new shit. We are here to discuss old shit, old European shit. This game feels very European to me.
Yeah, we might get into that with the developers. So, as we mentioned last episode, this episode we're actually going to be discussing Soccer Kid.
A proper game for once.
Yeah, it's what was the last proper game we played?
Return Fire, I think.
Well, do you count PO'd as a proper game, or
PO'd is a proper game, but I didn't play enough of it.
True.
To count, personally speaking. Let's look at.
Well, we played. I mean, Madden's kind of a proper.
Oh yeah,
game.
yeah. The Madden and FIFA games are proper games, and PO'd and Return Fire. But I guess Return Fire is like the closest to this, like an action kind of a game.
Yeah.
So.
Also, an iconic game on 3DO, despite this game not being a 3DO exclusive. It's not even close to being.
I wouldn't even consider it like a 3DO, like notable game. I think this game's more closely associated with the Amiga.
It is. So for a little backstory going into it, Soccer Kid was.
That's how European it is. It's associated with the fucking Amiga.
So Soccer Kid originated in 1993 for the Amiga. And it was developed by Crystallis Software.
I think it's Chrysalis. There's no T
Crystal.
in
Yeah,
there.
I'm thinking of a different studio, honestly. Um,
Maybe you're thinking of Crystal from Star Fox Adventures.
oh, so many furries, you know. Anyways, so Crystallis Software is a British studio, so yeah, this is a European-made game. Very
Close
clearly.
enough. It's close enough.
Yeah, Crystallis is actually, they lasted till 2001, so they were around for a while. But yeah, this game was originally on the Amiga in 1993. It later saw a port to the Super Nintendo later that in 94, the following year, plus DOS, the CD32, and the 3DO, and the Jaguar of all consoles.
And it has a GBA port as well, which, doing a quick eBay search, it's about like $50. So, which is on the pricier side for GBA games. I imagine it's the exact same game, but I'll probably get it at some point.
It also had a European PlayStation port, which is interesting to me.
Yeah. But yeah, looking at over Chrysalis's gamography, such a fake ass word, they haven't done anything that notable outside of this. Like they ported Alone in the Dark to the 3DO, both Alone in the Darks. Outside of that, they made a bunch of soccer games, Magic Carpet, which I think I know about that game, Space Hulk, Vengeance of the Blood Angels.
So Magic Carpet is actually a Bullfrog game that they ported.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Because they also ported Theme Park to DOS.
Yeah, and their last developed game was FA Premier League Stars 2001, which is a soccer game for the Game Boy Color. So if you're going to go out, that's how you go out, you know. They even dabbled in publishing for a little bit as well. Even publishing games like Chuck Rock for the Acorn Archimedes, which doesn't sound like a game console. That sounds like an old software company from 1958 or something. So yeah, they don't have the highest pedigree.
But they did develop the all-time classic known as Lego Chess.
See, I've never played Lego Chess. I would hope that game is more than just chess, but I don't know. I could probably find this on My Abandonware. In fact, let me check while you go on about Soccer Kid.
They also apparently developed a game called Mr. Nuts.
I mean, I could develop a game called Mr. Nuts, but I don't think it would be available for the general public.
Yeah. In other words, though, they're one of those many studios that existed during the 90s and kind of fizzled out following the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
They're a rare studio that actually lasted, that 3DO outlived, which is amusing to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that is funny. And yes, Lego Chess, it is on myabandonware.com. It is 296 megabytes.
Lovely.
So, yeah. I don't know why I've been on My Abandonware a lot more recently. Just out of curiosity to see what exists on here, you know, because for those who don't know, the term abandonware refers to old PC games that their rights are either like very much in a gray area or just like nobody really gives a shit about them anymore.
Yeah.
Because it is so easy to put any old PC game onto Steam or Good Old Games or wherever, right? Like it's so easy to do. But there's a lot of games that just don't really get that anymore. And so I guess people just upload these games in a probably not legal fashion. But if the rights are in this weird limbo, I guess nobody's going to care. But like at the same time, you can download the PC port of Simpsons Hit and Run on here. And I'm pretty sure that game's license is still fairly solid. Like, you know? Because that's a game...
Activision owns the rights to it, so...
Yeah, probably, and also Disney. But,
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and Radical Entertainment doesn't exist anymore. And I imagine...
Kind of. They kind of exist.
Yeah, but I imagine a game like that, which deserves a proper remaster on consoles, would probably get lost in the licensing hellhole of that, you know. But you can
Yeah.
get, but apparently you can get the PC version. I don't know how legal it is, but also they have on here the DOS version of The Incredible Machine, a game we will cover in the future with its 3DO version as well. So if you're looking to play some random ass PC games and you know you have the free time, go to My Abandonware. You'll find some interesting stuff there.
So going into this game's development a little bit, the team that made this game actually was kind of like an offshoot title by the team that made the Manchester United series of soccer simulators. They decided, I guess, they wanted to make a platformer at one point.
I mean,
It was
I
based.
could see why. I could see why. You know,
Hmm.
this was the early mid '90s, and platformers were all the rage. You know, you
Yeah.
had your Mario's, you had your Sonics, and then outside of Sonic, you had all of these different clones doing their thing, like Arrow the Acrobat and Boogerman and Earthworm Jim, Zool, amongst
Bubsy.
Bubsy, amongst many others. There's the Cool Spot game. There was McKids. There was the Chester Cheetah ones, Lester the Unlikely, which is more of like a Prince of Persia clone, but just like platformers were all the rage. And
Yeah.
so their thinking was probably, hey, you know, let's try to make a platformer, but with a twist.
Yes. So interestingly, this game actually runs off the same engine that powered another Chrysalis game called Arabian Nights, which was also a platformer based off of the Arabian Nights lore.
Is that just a Prince of Persia clone?
So there's not enough information on it. It appears to be more similar to this one, where it's just kind of a side scroller.
Okay. Because I imagine because the original Prince of Persia was a very, very influential game in its day.
It
But,
was. I mean, Out of This World was heavily inspired by it. Flashback.
yeah, a lot of really cool games that have kind of developed their own style because you know Prince of Persia kind of went off to do its own thing and kind of morphed into the Assassin's Creed series.
Yeah.
So it was interesting that to see games trying to do that. You know.
So this game, I guess the best way to describe it is a side-scrolling platformer, but its key gimmick is you are 100% reliant on your soccer ball.
Yeah, basically, like maybe it would have been better if you were an alive soccer ball, just kind of like rolling around. But
So I actually had a thought about this. This game is basically like some sort of hell where you're playing Mega Man 8 and you can only use the soccer kick like power the entire game and the ball never leaves the screen.
but to give this game credit, this handles the using a ball gimmick a lot better than Mega Man 8 does.
Yes.
Because the good
like-
thing with Mega Man 8 is, as far as I know, I have beaten that game twice, by the way. You only need the ball for like that first boss right after you get it, and then after that, I think there's like maybe one boss that's weak to it beyond that. But other than that, you don't really need to use it.
You don't
Just
need to
go-
use it, but if you know what you're doing with it, you can technically use it as a double jump.
Yeah, I've seen that. But yeah, it's got like a lot of like Mega Man 8. I actually quite like Mega Man 8, and I think people make too much of a stink about it.
Yeah,
and
Mega
I
Man
get
8's really
why
not bad.
those like weird segments when you're on the hoverboard and it's
Oh, the
slide,
jump,
slide,
jump,
jump,
slide,
jump,
slide.
jump. Yeah, those two bits are terrible. But beyond that, I think the game it's better than 7. Like I don't
Yeah,
like
7's the
I don't like
weakest one.
7 at all. But well, 7 is either like one of the best or one of the worst. I think it depends on who you ask. But for me,
Well-
it's kind of one of the worst. And 8, I think 8's pretty good. And I wish,
Mm.
like, say Mega Man 12, which they'll probably do at some point. I wish it would look more like 8 because 11's sort of like weird chibi art style doesn't really do it for me.
11 looks okay, but it's not exactly what I would have liked for a future game.
Yeah. I'd rather them go away from the 8 aesthetic like they did it for 9 and 10, and that's all perfectly fine. But I think 12, if 12 tried to go for like a Mega Man 8, but with a bit more of a modern twist to it, I think it would look really, really cool. Because like that style is in vogue right now, so it would make more sense in my opinion.
Even like Mega Man and Bass like use that style. Also, shout out to
Isn't it
Andre
based?
from Mega Man Bass. Yeah,
Yeah, bass and treble because of
Yeah.
the music stuff.
Yep. Shout out to Andre from Fine Time for enlightening me on how Mega Man and Bass is actually a pretty good game.
No, fuck you, Dre.
What did he do?
Nothing. I just wanted to say that to rile him up. Hey, buddy.
Gotcha. Well, you said it, not me.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
hey, eventually you'll hear the two of us yelling at each other. So stay tuned, kids.
Yep. But anyways, this isn't a Mega Man episode. We're talking about Soccer Kid.
Though, I mean, it's a 2D platformer. Maybe it had a little bit of a Mega Man influence.
It's possible.
Maybe not.
Mega Man.
I think Sonic was the big one, which
yes.
At this time, Sonic, like everyone always goes on about Mario and Mario World, but I feel like Sonic was the bigger influence for all of these like platformer like clones, I guess, to appear around this time because they all want like that sense of speed. Yeah, they either like have a sense of speed or they have like a weird anthropomorphic title character, or sometimes they have both. And the way the games are set up feels like it's more trying to do what Sonic was doing with like Sonic 2. You know, like Sonic 2, Sonic 3, somewhere in the middle. And Soccer Kid feels closer to that than say like a Mario.
Yeah, like it's very fast paced, which
Yes.
I do enjoy. But it's not like stupidly uncontrollable like something like Bubsy is.
Yeah, that's the thing I was worried about going into this game was the control. Like, how is this gonna feel? Because a lot of platforms from this era do not control well at all. They're usually like really slippery,
or like your jump. You weigh like 1,000 pounds. You can barely.
Yeah. Like I know a lot of people give Sonic shit, but the 2D ones still to this day I think control really well, and their physics and momentum based platforming still hit really hard. Compared to say, some people might get mad at me for this, but like a Donkey Kong Country, like I don't think those games have aged all that well. Like control wise, they feel kind of stiff to me because I've beaten 1 and 3. I really need to sit down and play 2, but I just find them like stiff, and I feel like I'm like overexerting as like a player to try to say get Donkey Kong to do his thing or whatever. Like it doesn't feel right to me. And
I think a lot of that has to do with the pre-rendered graphics kind of tricking your eyes at times too.
It could be, and also like I grew up playing the Sonic games and didn't play the Donkey Kong Country games till years later, so maybe it's like a muscle memory thing. But because to me, like 1 through Knuckles and even Mania, they all feel like perfect to me. Like that's how they should feel.
Even the advanced games 1 and 2 are fairly solid.
I mean, 3 controls well. Like my issues with Advanced 3 are not the controls.
True.
So
it's everything else.
But I think Soccer Kid handles its controls better than I expected. Though it does fall into that trap that the Sonic games fall into, which is the trial and error style gameplay, which I think is a divisive topic. And I think Soccer Kid, it's not as bad as some of the Sonic games can be. Like there's definitely moments in those where it's like, yeah, that is bullshit. Soccer Kid it's a little bit better with it. But every once in a while, it was kind of like, oh, like you bitch ass, right? Because you can't, as far as I know, you cannot attack an enemy without the soccer ball.
Yes.
At all. Because you are kicking the soccer ball the whole time as you're roaming around. But you can do different tricks with the soccer ball. You can kick it straight ahead. You can kind of kick it at an angle. You can kick it directly above you and kind of hit it with your head. You can even use it as a little spring to bounce up, which the hit detection on like jumping onto the ball is really weird. I don't know if you noticed that.
So
it's you don't land square center on it. You have to land slightly behind it for it to work.
Yes. So I noticed like right away, like with this game, like we were talking about physics earlier. One thing I give this game a lot of credit for is the soccer ball's physics are really good. Like it never feels stupid when you kick it. Like it always feels like when you kick it, you actually feel like you're kicking a soccer ball.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, the problem is though, I think they focused so much on the physics of the soccer ball that they kind of screwed up the hit detection and controls everywhere else in a few places. Not that they're bad, just that they're not as refined as say the soccer ball physics are.
Yeah, because with say the jumping on the soccer ball to use as like a little spring or whatever, like it's not accurate as far as the hit detection, but it's consistent. So like whenever instead of going center, yeah, if I go just a little behind, I can get it every time,
Hmm.
right? But I think another issue this game has, you'll probably agree with me, is the level design is very bland.
Yeah, it's
Like
about
it is
as
so mid that there's like nothing that really makes it stand out as far as like the level design, because I could imagine, say, a modern indie dev wanting to make a 2D platformer using like a soccer ball. There are so many possibilities with like, puzzle solving or very interesting enemy placement or whatever, right? Like you could do something really cool with this, or even, not to upset Dre, you could make a Metroidvania, like a soccer kid style, like almost, like have it to where you learn new abilities with the soccer ball to get to other places. Like there's a lot of potential with this kind of an idea. But I think with a lot of unique ideas from back in the day, like game design just wasn't really there, and a lot of guys who were probably good for what they were, and this, it's a perfectly fine game, but you play it and you're just thinking like, oh, they could do more with it, you know?
you can tell very much that this was very clearly the team's first platformer.
Yeah, and it really shows because like the bosses are super easy. Yeah, the level design is very kind of copy paste.
You'll
The
see
the
a
en-
lot of enemies a lot. Like the enemies are very repetitive at times.
yeah, like palette swaps at best. And they don't really do much to attack you outside of just moving left and right. Like
No, you're only real the only real like danger you are of getting hurt is if like you lose your soccer ball temporarily or like you lose track of it and it hasn't reappeared yet.
yeah,
Um
because yeah, this game it's very easy to either just lose your soccer ball or you try to kick it over a spike pit and it just completely flops.
or
So
the
it take
physics lose their shit and like it flies across the screen and you're like, "Uh-oh."
Yeah, yeah. And to this game's credit, it allows you to just have like multiple soccer balls just appear wherever, right?
Yes.
Like could you imagine like a Dark Souls version of this where you have the one soccer ball and you can't lose it, and if you do, you're fucked.
So when I first
That would
played
be
this
fun.
game,
Soccer Souls.
I didn't know the soccer ball respawned, so I was like, I'd lose it. I'd be like, shit, what do I do? And I'd keep getting killed by the enemies until I realized it respawns after this, and oh, okay, it's not as hard as I thought.
Yeah, because what's weird is this game gives you like a slide move when you don't have the ball, right? So
And it
like when you're
doesn't do
running,
anything.
you can hit the C, you can hit C to slide, and I was like, oh, does this like attack enemies or anything? Like I don't even know if it opens like treasure chests, but yeah, it doesn't do anything. Like it to make the old joke, it's like the stick in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's like they give you an action, but you can't really do anything with it that's substantial. So what's the point?
It's like Kyle Justin said, the weapons don't do anything.
Well, in this game, the soccer ball does everything.
Yes.
Almost to a fault. Like it feels it relies so much on the soccer ball that the kid part just feels like just kind of an afterthought. You know what I mean? And it's strange how like simple the game is, and almost kind of like it's almost kind of homey in its own in a weird way,
Yeah.
because the plot is absolutely fucking absurd,
It's literally
but I love it.
aliens. Aliens show up and steal a soccer trophy, and you need to go get it back. It's like, okay, sure, why
Yeah,
not?
yeah. All right. Plot synopsis time with Rack. Okay, so you are a soccer kid, shocker, and you're about to watch the finals of, let's just say it's the World Cup. We can say it's the World Cup, right?
It's the legally acceptable name for World Cup. Yes.
Yes, the public domain cup. And yes, a alien pirate ship, being piloted by a man named, or an alien named Scab, comes
Yes.
down and tries to steal the public domain cup. And everyone's like, holy shit, what's going on? And then he gets it. And as he is leaving, his ship collides with a satellite. And with this satellite collision, somehow the ship is fine, but somehow the cup gets split into 5 pieces that conveniently land in London, Italy, Russia, the USA, and I forget where the other one was. Japan.
Yep, Japan.
And so Soccer Kid somehow sees all this happen on TV because they conveniently have cameras where the pieces fall, right?
Yeah,
And
convenient.
he puts on his cleats, he grabs his soccer ball, and he's like, I guess it's up to me. And that's the fucking plot of the game.
So
What a simple time this was, wasn't it?
I love the 3DO version for one reason, and it is that glorious FMV cutscene that plays at the start.
Yes, that very like VHS quality, like cartoon animation.
So it's like cartoon animation mixed with some CGI, and the CGI looks fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's
like
the greatest thing ever.
Like it has the animation of if you were like in elementary school and your teacher is gonna like show you a video that was made for the educational system on like oh, here's how you keep away from strangers, or how you don't do drugs or whatever. It has that kind of quality of animation to it.
It's like that, or like
know?
early YouTube animation where like there was just like this really like kind of like basic look that looks very uncanny nowadays, but also kind of nostalgic.
Kind of, because the Soccer Kid himself, the cover of it, his proportions are very, very 90s. I mean, I feel like the 90s was the era of like weird proportions in general. You know, 'cause you had like
Yeah.
so you had guys like Rob Liefeld in the comic in the
Oh yeah,
comic
where
sphere.
none of his art made any fucking sense.
Seriously, like it's kind of ridiculous. Here with Soccer Kid, it's like he has these giant ass eyes, right? Like eyes that are like a third of the size of his head, and then these like bushy eyebrows, and then like the back of his head protrudes out like so far he almost looks like a hammerhead shark. And then he has these like looks like he has like Ed and Eddie jawbreakers in his cheeks.
Yeah, he looks like he got stung by a bee before he took the photo.
Yeah, and he's got them Ronald McDonald shoes, like those massive ass cleats, but he has like these like thick legs. It's ridiculous.
See, I love the 3DO version of the cover because like the full long box version, because you get like he's standing on this soccer ball and then they just threw a bunch of randos, including like the quote unquote fan service girl, I guess, on the cover.
Oh yeah, the 3DO version, he looks different.
Yeah, he does. But like his menu screen looks like the original art.
Yeah, because the version I referenced was the Amiga cover that's on the Wikipedia. But yeah,
Yes.
looking at the 3DO version, yeah, his proportions are much more like standard, I guess. Like they look better. Like this cover looks a lot better. Like I like the Soccer Kid logo more. They're trying to like give it a bit of an arc with a little border around it. It looks a bit more presentable. Whereas like the Amiga version looks like a first draft. Whereas this looks more like the final project. It's almost like going back to Sonic when they first showed Sonic, like the design of him to the Americans, and then they had the Americans redraw him to give him a little bit better of a look, like a more rounded edge kind of look. Like it's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's not so I'll include both the covers in the thumbnail for this episode, but it's not the ugliest thing ever, but it's also very 90s. And that kind of carries over into the game's graphics, which are...
You're not the ugliest thing ever, kid.
I mean, I've seen some ugly box arts back in that day.
It's like when someone says you're not unattractive. It's like that's not a compliment.
Yeah, that's just like I don't want to say you're ugly, but
you can say I'm mid. It's okay. I can live with that. I can live with mid.
But yeah, so going on to how this game looks graphically, it's okay.
It's very of its era. In fact, it's very Amiga. Like if you've ever looked at other Amiga games, it's perfectly into that mold.
Yeah.
Whereas in the 3DO land, it kind of sticks out a little bit. Because there's not a lot of mainly 2D type of like games on the 3DO. Even stuff like Gex, like Gex's model is like a pre-rendered 3D sprite basically. Whereas Soccer Kid, it's all sprite 2D stuff.
Yeah, like Soccer Kid is very clearly a port that's been updated a little bit for 3DO because 3DO is more powerful than an Amiga.
Yeah.
But this game is very clearly an Amiga game, like just looking at it. It's got that very 90s PC look to it, which
Yeah,
isn't a
very
bad thing.
European. It's European, and it's the thing. I can't say this game is Eurojank, which
Hmm.
some people may not like that term, but I think Eurojank became more of a thing in when 3D games were starting to be a thing.
Yeah.
Like that's when like Eurojank kind of like 'cause I think the first Hitman is like borderline Eurojank.
Yeah, the one that was
Border
on PC only and is like
Yeah.
not particularly good.
Yeah, like it's fine, but yeah, it's a bit Eurojank. Even like Witcher 1 and 2 are kind of Eurojank as
Mm.
well. Some people may not like I say that, but I think it's true. But yeah,
It's funny
like,
because like when you think
but
of
this
European,
game, go ahead.
I was gonna say when you think of like European developed platformers, usually the first studio you think of is like Rare.
Yeah, but their games are not janky at all. They're
No, Rare. It was
perfect.
an odd anomaly for a developer back in the day.
Yeah, they shone bright, but it didn't because then something like Grab by the Ghoulies, that's borderline Eurojank.
Yeah, well, I mean that's
If you've played it, I don't hate Grab by the Ghoulies. I think it's perfectly fine. It has
That-
it has a few design philosophies I don't care for, but I think it works for what it's trying to be.
that game's problem was it was an N64 game that got ported to Xbox, basically.
Yeah, though I say to this day, if it was a GameCube exclusive, people would say it's an underrated gem.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but since it's on the Xbox, who cares?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with that was Microsoft's big debut with Rare, and it was like,
Yeah, and it
Oh.
was the crowd goes mild. Yeah,
yeah. And then they released a heavily censored port of Rare's most cult classic games.
yeah, which is weird that they did that.
Well, especially because
But-
the original version was supposed to be Conquer Live and Uncut.
Yeah, which I'm not sure why that happened. I don't know. Maybe Microsoft got cold feet. I don't know, but
It's possible. They censored shit. That's like to me the most like Why?
they censored the Great Mighty Pooh. Like that's the most iconic part of Conquer. Like everybody knows, even if you've never played the game, that you know Great Mighty Pooh. So
well, it's a shame too because Live and Reloaded looks like 1,000 times better and plays so much better because it's just they've
Like-
learned so much with how to make games. But
honestly, that game looks good by today's standards.
It
That came out in
looked-
2005.
a lot of people don't even realize it's an OG Xbox game because it looks almost 360.
Yeah. I mean, when it came out, when did it come out? 21st of June, 2005. So within a couple months, like the 360 was already out.
Mm.
So it wasn't far away. I'm surprised they didn't just throw it on the 360 just for the hell of it. So
It's weird to me that Rare only released 2 games on the OG Xbox.
yeah, those two.
They
Well, 'cause-
released more games on the GBA than they did the OG
Yeah.
Xbox.
Yeah, well, I think they had the GBA dev kit already.
Yeah,
And stuff
Microsoft
like-
struck up a deal with Nintendo like back before they were making deals. Where
Yeah, and stuff like Donkey Kong Country on the GBA. I bet you that was already in the works before the acquisition happened.
I'm
So,
convinced the
it just
first
made
one
sense.
was because
Oh yeah,
if you notice, Donkey Kong Country 1 on the GBA still uses the classic Rare logo, and the other two use the second iteration that Microsoft wants.
yeah. It's weird they made more games on the 360.
Yeah, they did.
Well-
Well, half of those games started developing. I know Cameo in particular did.
Well, Cameo I think was didn't that start on the N64 and then went to the GameCube,
Probably.
went to the Xbox, and then finally was a 360 launch title. I haven't played it since I played it in a demo kiosk back in the day, and I thought it was awesome. But that was
Yeah.
2005, so I have no idea what my opinion would be of it now. And
It's fine, but nothing remarkable.
Yeah.
That's from when I played it.
Oh yeah, and Perfect Dark Zero was a launch title as well. Yeah, they
Yeah.
had 2 games that were launch titles for the 360, and then shortly thereafter was Viva Pinata, which I remember that kind of blew up.
They
People
did.
were
A
really
lot-
people
a
were
lot of
into
people-
that.
A lot of people didn't even realize it was Rare at the time.
Yeah, and actually, my son has discovered Viva Pinata, and he loves it. Like he's into it, but he's also playing a lot of Pikmin these days as well. So I think that kind of like strategy sim thing, I think that's just his vibe right now. But games like Viva Pinata are very inviting for younger players,
Mm.
Like I totally get it. Like I've played a bit of it. I don't really think it's my thing, but I see why people dig it.
I gotta track it down. It's one of the few rare games I don't own.
It's on Rare Replay.
I don't have an Xbox One.
You can get a series.
Someday.
Yeah, you should. You should get a series, and then in fact, I think Rare Replay was the first thing I bought for my Xbox One.
I
'Cause
plan on it
I wanted
at
it.
some point. I just financially, I got other things at the moment. But it's
Fair
on eventually.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh yeah. Oh, Rare Replay. We didn't get Party Animals, which was their like party game Viva Pinata, but that was developed by Chrome Studios,
Chrome
who did the Tasmanian Tiger games,
and The Legend of Spyro.
and this is a me thing, and they also made the video game based off that King Arthur movie from the mid 2000s.
That is true. They did.
I played the shit out of that game. If you ever want like what's the most random game that I probably know front to back, it is the King Arthur game.
That's like me with the.
It's like a niche thing. I know that game so well. I played that game to death because it reminded me of the Lord of the Rings games from that era, and it's definitely going for that. But it feels, well, we have Return of the King at home.
Yeah. That's me with like the handheld Sims games where like I just know those games so back and forth I can like speedrun them now.
Yeah. In fact, I want to try to speedrun King Arthur. Anyway.
But
anyways,
Soccer
Rare,
Kid.
yeah. But anyway, Rare is fine. That's a whole nother topic. But anyways, yeah. But yeah, Soccer Kid. Oh, because we were talking about Eurojank. Yeah, like the game isn't Eurojank. Not really. It's pretty smooth.
It's a very standard for the time platformer with a somewhat unique gimmick that I think makes it stand out.
Yeah, and putting it on the Super. It's weird it didn't come out on the Genesis because this feels like a Genesis game.
It does. It looks like a Genesis game too. Which
like I could see like playing this between like those Disney Genesis games, Aladdin and the Lion King, which are good games. I don't want to hear it. Aladdin on the Genesis is good. Shut the fuck up.
Better than the Super Nintendo version, arguably.
Thank you. Fuck Shinji Mikami. He made better games after. Anyways. But yeah, like this fits with those, especially Jungle Book. That's the one I had as a kid. Was the Jungle Book Genesis game, for the one made by Virgin. Love that fucker. Again, it's slippery. It has that slippery platforming, but I like it, and I'm just used to it. So, and eat a dick anyway.
What'd you think of the music?
What in the
Soccer
Jungle
Kid?
Book? Oh, Soccer Kid. I kind of liked it.
I like the opening stage.
And I kind of hate that I like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The opening stage music is obscenely catchy. Like it's like it just worms into your brain. You're like, you know what? I'm fine with this. It's annoying after like 5 minutes, but
oh yeah. Because it's like I've heard worse. I've heard far worse than this music, but like it for some reason works.
There's another 3DO game. I don't know if we'll ever talk about it because it's just Mahjong, but there's a Mahjong game called Triple Threat Shanghai.
Yeah.
And the background music for it is the most catchiest fucking thing ever when you're playing like the most janky Mahjong game you'll ever play.
Well, that helps with puzzle games. You got to have a good soundtrack. It keeps you in,
Yeah. I don't know if we'll cover that on the show just because it's legitimately just Mahjong, but
what I find so weird about the Soccer Kid music, despite it being like shockingly good, is after a while it just fades away. And then it comes back. It doesn't do a hard loop. Well, it does loop, but it's not like a hard cut loop. It just kind of fades and then it comes back. And it's like that is a interesting choice.
It's
because most games just do like say the Sonic games, they just do a hard cut loop to where it just goes forever and ever, right?
Yeah. Well, it's better than those games that like didn't do it as gracefully, where the song just like flat out just kind of ends and then just starts up again 5 seconds later.
Yeah. Though I always get a kick out of that. I think it's funny. Whereas with this, when you're playing it, maybe it's just because how I am, but when I'm ever playing a game, if like the music starts to slowly fade out, I'm like, am I getting near the end? Is there a boss coming? Because it's like building anticipation, but nope. I'm just midway through the stage.
So I looked up out of curiosity who composed this game. It was composed by Matt Furness. And
he probably did the Amiga version, and the Amiga soundtrack is different than the 3DO one.
oh, that's true.
They
There's
are
no
different. So hold on, let me pull out my copy
yeah, because there's no
from the stack. Hold on. Ugh, because I have the manual. So let's see if we can give proper credit to this, this generational talent.
yeah.
He's a resident Koji Kondo, I think. Let's see. Music and sound, Matt Furness.
Oh, so he did both versions.
I guess so, because the music is different in the Amiga version. I don't know, because you can look up. I mean, you can look up the OST for any fucking video game on YouTube, but like they are considerably different. So
He did a good job. He if
yeah,
you look
I
through
like
his credits on I was looking through some of his credits because he has a Moby Games page of all things.
hell yeah.
And apparently he did the music for Fear Effect Sedna, which is interesting to me.
Well, good for him.
He did Excitebike 64. Oh, I guess he did the original
hell
Fear.
yeah.
He did the original Fear Effect.
Fuck that. He did Excitebike 64. That's a great game.
Yeah, he did a bunch of stuff that I know
there's
of.
there's a new Zool game?
Oh, yeah, there is, and it's not good apparently.
I mean, the originals weren't that good either.
Actually, bringing up Zool, this game reminds me of Zool because of the candy everywhere.
Yeah, and Zool is very like that year. I mean, Zool I think is closer to trying to be a Sonic clone than Soccer Kid. Because it doesn't really have an interesting gimmick. It's just, oh, I'm weird and wacky.
Candy everywhere.
Yeah, diabetes down your throat.
Yeah, Soccer Kid, like your main pickups are like ice cream cones and like, dessert, and it's like, okay, sure, why not?
yeah. When you're a healthy kid playing soccer, you want nothing but the sweet treats. But I get it. It's kind of a common thing with kids. You give them junk food and they can still go fucking nuts. It's not like now us old farts who even like if I look at a milkshake, I can't get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, where when I eat one cookie and I have to work out for 5 days to make up for it.
Yeah, we don't have body dysmorphia. No, never.
No, we're just old.
Anyway.
So other than that, there's not a whole lot to say about this game other than it's a solid platformer.
For what it is, it's fine. Like I think it does. It accomplishes what it's trying to do, but I think it just suffers from not having enough, I think, ambition for what it's trying to do, because the later you get into the game, it doesn't really change up that much. Like the level design stays pretty similar, the same kind of like weird underground parts and treasure chests with like heart with health upgrades and you got to collect the soccer cards, and if you collect them all, you get a little bonus stage in between the worlds or whatever, right? And like this game doesn't save properly. Like it'll save between the worlds. So like if you finish the first set of levels and get to the next set, it'll save. But if you game over in the middle of that, you have to start from the beginning of that set of levels, which is a very like old school kind of way of looking at it, and it's really annoying to play that way. I gotta be honest.
God forbid your 3DO's memory is full and you have an FC1 because no manager, and if it's full, you can't save.
Yeah, and when you're on the title screen, like there's no button prompts for anything. So I think it's if you hit B, it'll bring up that little menu. But if you just hit A or start, like the game just starts playing.
It's more typical 3DO janky menus.
Yeah, well, although I would chop that up to it's probably the Amiga as well.
True.
Like, I imagine it's the exact same there. Maybe the Super Nintendo version as well. I don't know. I've seen the Super Nintendo version in action. I mean, to be fair, I think they're all the exact same. Like there's no real difference between any of these versions. So
Yeah, it's just graphical fidelity and soundtracks apparently are different.
yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Jaguar port. That didn't come out till 2000.
Yeah, like weird, like bizarre.
Does that mean it's official?
Probably not.
Like who
Yeah.
like who fucking licensed that?
So here's the fun fact about the Jaguar. After Hasbro bought the Atari Corp, they literally just dumped the Jaguar into like public domain and just made it an open source console. So
Oh, so that's probably why it got
yeah,
made.
there was a ton because a Jaguar is like one of the most popular fully open dumped.
Yeah.
But this is not the Jaguar experience, 3DO experience, and
I mean, the Jaguar experience, you'd probably be miserable right now.
it'd just be Alex over in the corner going like, "The Jaguar's the best in 64-bit console because memes."
I mean,
I
we'd be
can't.
like, we'd been like, Alien versus Predator was good.
Tempest 2000.
I like it. I like Atari carts a lot.
Atari Carts is a good kart racer.
Attack of the Mutant Penguins. That
Fucking
game.
love that game.
Yeah,
It's so
that game is
fucking bizarre but great.
Yeah. I would have did an
Rayman.
episode. I would have did a class on brutal sports football. Let's see.
The
Oh,
original
Flashback.
Rayman.
We could have talked about
Flashback,
Flashback.
yep.
Kasumi Ninja, but this console has its own Mortal Kombat clone. So
Which is arguably better, but doesn't have Scottish guy with fireballs at his. It's not as.
oh yeah, and then Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure. I forgot that came out on the Jaguar. That's a pretty good game.
That came out on like everything.
Oh yeah, the best version is the Sega CD version.
Yeah.
Because you get that really nice, like Red Book style, like CD score. Sounds really fucking good.
Yeah, it's like the Echo games. Like the best way to play them is on Sega CD.
Yeah, I mean, the Sega CD has a lot of like, in my opinion, all the 2D like platformers that were put on there are kind of like the best ones to play. Like even stuff like Mortal Kombat on Sega CD, I think is better. I mean, I know it has the load times, but it's the Genesis game, but you have the arcade, like exact like sound effects and music.
Yep.
So it's a lot better. Mickey Mania, the Sega CD version of that's superior. You know,
Final Fight CD is like the complete game.
It's the arcade conversion. Yeah.
Yep.
So take that, Super Nintendo. But then it has games like The Adventures of Willy Beamish, which tick my box.
That's a fun game. It also has Ground Zero Texas, where you're aliens.
Oh, yeah. Love Ground Zero Texas.
And if you accidentally shoot a civilian, punched it.
Yeah. And also, it probably has the worst version of Wheel of Fortune I've ever played.
Oh no!
It's. I mean, if we were ever to do an episode where I school you on all the various Wheel of Fortune games that have been released, in my opinion, it's probably the worst one.
Yeah.
But
it also has some little.
Another day.
It also has some little game called Lunar. You know.
Yeah. Oh, Wonder Dog. I know Wonder Dog.
Yeah.
Rage in WWF Rage in the Cage. Theme Park was on here. Oh, it has that badass Terminator game.
Love it
does. That game is amazing.
Android Assault. That's another classic.
Yeah. Soul Feast.
Soul Feast.
More like Soul Feces.
Made by the Tales Studio.
Yeah. Holy fuck! Shin Megami Tensei was on the Sega CD. It was on the Mega CD in Japan.
Yep. Not over here.
Bitch, son of a fucking. Oh, we did get Shining Force CD, so that's good. Hi, Jala. Shout out to the Shining Force fans out there.
Yeah. Also mentioned Lunar 2. Hi, Jala.
Secret of Monkey Island. There's that Road Rash. Sega CD has some good shit on there, you know.
Yeah. No, Sega CD isn't a failure. It's just
it was.
Not exactly. I mean, it still sold 2 million.
Yeah, but
it wasn't like
I don't think it sold enough though.
No, but it wasn't what killed Sega. Like a lot of people claim it did.
No, the Sega CD was meant to be like it does what an add-on is supposed to do. It doesn't take away from its parent system, but if you buy one, it has some extra neat stuff attached to it. You know what I mean? And plus Nintendo was gonna do one anyways, so So
Yeah.
don't put Nintendo on a pedestal for not doing it. Like, oh, their console aged better. It's like, bitch, they were gonna do one. It's just they somehow made the
Yeah.
PlayStation in the meantime.
Yeah, Nintendo was gonna do one, and all that happened was they created their biggest rival and
Yeah,
ultimate
like
downfall for a couple of years.
yeah, like the 32X is probably more responsible for the downfall of Sega. 'Cause
And
that
even then,
thing-
that wasn't
thing-
even
But that thing was a fucking stupid idea in the first place.
that was the idea. That was literally the effect of Sega of Japan and Sega,
Of America fighting each other, yeah.
yeah, and sabotaging each other.
Exactly. But anyways, that was quite the tangent we went on. So I was going to talk about how I like Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure, and it reminds me of the Disney Virgin games.
Yep.
Anyways,
Back to 3DO. Like,
back
it's
back
funny
to
how
3DO.
the 3DO is such an interesting console, but at the same time, it branches to other consoles so easily.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also not a lot of platformers on this console. Like, not really.
Not any that
There's-
are remarkable. There's the only
I
two
mean,
that are.
it has Another World. It has Flashback, but I think everything had that at the time. It has this game. It has Gex, which is the big one. Trying to think.
There's probably more. I'd have to do some research though.
I mean, I'm looking at the list and I'm not seeing anything that's like, oh yeah, that's a platformer. Like, I'm not getting anything. It's home to a lot more like 3D style games and puzzle games and things like that.
I'm surprised they never
FMVs.
tried a 3D platformer on this thing. To be honest.
Johnny Bazooka Tone. That's a platformer.
Oh, okay.
That's stupid expensive, and I don't own it. Which
Yep.
I wish I did own it because I've heard it's terrible. But we'll find that out in the future.
Yeah, that's probably gonna be an emulator game.
Yeah, I think so.
But
yeah,
yeah,
I'm looking. I'm still not seeing any more platformer. Not really.
honestly, like Soccer Kid is an interesting one because like where anytime I see a 3DO collection online, always it. But like it's one of those games that I don't associate with 3DO, even though it's the console I first played it on, just because my 3DO. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, like I associate it with the Amiga because that's what it was made for, and it fits perfectly into that aesthetic. But the Amiga was never really a thing in North America. Like, I don't think it was ever released in North America, was it?
They were, but not like. It was before they were. The problem is they came out around the point where like Apple was starting to really pick up. DOS was picking up.
Yeah, but like, yeah, it was in that period of personal computers where everything wasn't really set in stone yet, because when Windows 95 came out, that kind of set the standard for what computers were going to be. I think across the board. So the 80s was almost like the Wild West, where you had Apple doing like decent shit for once. And then you had, like Atari with their line of personal computers. The Amiga was, that was Commodore.
Yep.
Yeah, so, and yeah, Windows was starting to show up as Microsoft was starting to show up with like Windows 3.1. That's a piece of shit. But, it is what it is. So I associate it with that, but I can see people associating it with 3DO. Because it is a weird little game that, despite being released on a bunch of platforms, I think for some people it just kind of fits into that niche of the 3DO, or maybe they just want to give the 3DO a little bit more credit because they're like, oh, it has a proper platformer. But like when I think 3DO platformer, I do not think this game at all.
No,
but
we think of a gecko.
yes, we think of car insurance.
Yes.
But Bill, I think we're at this point. What would you say? Must play, okay, or stay away?
I'm gonna say it's okay. Like, I don't think you need to play Soccer Kid to truly enjoy the 3DO, but it's also not a bad game. Like, it's not a game that I finished it. Like, that's to me that's enough to give it an okay.
Yeah.
But if you don't own this game and you're not really interested, I don't think you need to pick it up.
That's fair. I would give it probably somewhere between okay and must play, because I ended up enjoying the game more than I expected. Full disclosure, I did not beat it. I got about halfway through. The having to constantly go back but like, oh, it wouldn't save between each level. Kind of, that was the one part that made me go, I've played enough to figure it out, kind of thing. But it sits somewhere in the middle. Like, I think it's better than okay, but I wouldn't say it's a must play. It sits weirdly in that way. Like, it's a sure. Like, if you want to go for it, sure, why not? There are much worse games to play, especially on the 3DO, than this. So if it catches your interests, by all means, go for it.
Yeah, like it's not offensive, and that's, to me, like, that is
I
already
wish
a
it
step
was
up.
offensive. That'd be
Well,
awesome.
I meant more offensive in like this is shit kind of way, but
Yeah. Oh, there's a few of those on here.
well, yeah, I mean, like the last game we played. Yep. But yeah, so I'm thinking now next week. So we're getting close to Halloween.
Ooh, spooky time.
So I don't know if we'll do it next week, but we definitely Alone in the Dark's got it. We're in that season.
I mean, we could. I mean, there's also a D.
There's D. Yep, I can play the
Yeah.
Saturn version if I need to. We can
Um,
talk about the cannibal story. That's always fun.
Cannibal Story. What?
Well, I'll save it for the episode. It's actually
Oh yeah, there's that Casper game. That's on the 3DO as well.
yeah, it is. It's spoopy season, so we should.
It is. Yeah, we gotta do something spooky. I'm not sure what though.
So
Maybe
I was
maybe let's not tell the audience. That'll be the spooky part. So
yeah.
when they tune in next week, they'll just have to find out. Ooh.
Well, we've given some options, and they'll just have to wait and see.
Yes, go to the Patreon and vote.
I don't know if we have enough listeners for that yet.
No,
but,
no, I'm just being a little shit.
yeah, I'm sure our buddies over in the Novel Console server will give us some.
Oh yeah, yes. Yeah, what spooky 3DO game should we play next week? Please let us know.
All right, but other than that, guys, once again, thanks for joining us on the 3DO Experience. 3DO Experience can be found on pretty much all the major podcasting platforms. You can find all of our links at linktree/thebarberwhogames, and join in on the shoot the shit. You can join us over on the GNC Podcast Discord server. We're all nice here, don't worry.
We swear.
Yeah. And with that, we will see you all next time.
Bye-bye.
If you're not playing on a 3DO system, what are you playing with?